She escaped a forced marriage. Discover the amazing moment. A cowboy said, "Just get on the horse." Clara Matthews sat in the corner of the small cafe, her fingers tracing the worn pages of her beloved veterinary textbooks as the aroma of brewed coffee swirled around her. It was supposed to be a sanctuary, a brief moment of escape from the suffocating expectations that trapped her like a moth caught in a spider's web. Yet today, the weight of obligation felt heavier than ever. Her impending marriage loomed as her parents' voices echoed in her mind, reminding her of the duty to uphold their family reputation and marry the rancher chosen for her, someone she barely knew. She often questioned what kind of life she would lead, surrendered to someone else's decisions. As she stared blankly at the page, conflicted emotions churned within her, a mix of frustration for her string of obligations, and unyielding fear that she would lose herself entirely. The life she dreamed of, filled with her passion for animals and healing, crept further from her grasp. The urgency to break free rippled beneath her skin like the heat of the Texas sun. If only she could summon the courage to confront her parents, to demolish the mold they had cast her into. Just then, the bell above the door jingled, and her heart raced unexpectedly as a rugged cowboy entered. He swept a glance around, his eyes an enticing dark blue, before settling on her. Jake. There was something fierce yet vulnerable about him, as if he carried a weight similar to her own. A tempest bubbled within her as their eyes met, igniting a spark she had long thought extinguished. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice resonating with the warmth of the summer sun. "You can," Clara replied hesitantly, but in her mind doubt clawed at her decisions. What would happen if people saw them together? The local gossip would be relentless. Yet, as he sat across from her, she felt a connection spark between them that distracted her from her swirling thoughts. They exchanged stories, sharing their dreams and aspirations. With every word, Clara felt the mounting pressure of her family's expectations clash with the desire to pursue her own dreams. Jake listened intently, and she felt free for a moment, unshackled from the chains of propriety. Yet her excitement turned to soul-crushing despair as she thought of her parents, the sacrifices they had made, the love they expected in return. She never wanted to betray them, but the thought of marrying a man she barely knew felt like a certain death, a choice that would snuff out her vibrancy. Before she could unravel her fears, Jake leaned closer, urgency in his voice. "Just get on the horse," he urged, offering an impulsive suggestion that pierced the haze of her internal turmoil. The exhilaration of galloping away, leaving her life behind, called to her, yet the stakes felt impossibly high. She hesitated, caught between fear of the unknown and the seductive pull of freedom. Could she really abandon her family for her own desires? Clara's thoughts raced, muscles taut as she envisioned riding away from it all, embracing an unknown but passionate existence with Jake. But what of her family? The tumult of expectations became all-consuming, drowning out her dreams. Then, just as clarity began to bloom, a message pinged on her phone, a reminder that duty awaited her back home. The weight of her unfulfilled life crashed down like a thunderstorm, and with it, a pang of anguish that sliced through her skin like barbed wire. Would she sacrifice the love she felt blossoming with Jake, or remain locked in a gilded cage? With her decision looming like a dark cloud overhead, Clara felt time slipping away. The door to her future creaked open, and just beyond it lay a choice that could change everything. The next morning, the sun peeked through the curtains of Clara's room, casting long shadows over the cluttered surface of her desk. The remnants of last night's conversation with Jake clung to her like the scent of fresh coffee. The thrill of possibility mingled with anxiety. She was standing at a precipice, staring down into a chasm filled with uncertainty. Was she brave enough to leap? Clara pushed herself upright, shaking off the remnants of sleep. Did she have the courage to defy her family's expectations? Her training as a veterinarian had filled her head with the knowledge of animal anatomy and care, but now she wrestled with the complexity of her own heart. Frustration boiled within her like a pot nearing the edge of overflow. She had dedicated countless hours to her studies, envisioning a future where she could save animals and connect with the land, yet her path remained obstructed by the weight of her upcoming marriage. As the morning progressed, Clara's thoughts swirled in a turbulent vortex. She sifted through her notes, but they felt irrelevant. The words she once loved fell flat under the weight of her personal crisis. What was the point of saving creations of beauty and life if she was sacrificing her own? Her passion, her dreams, the very essence of who she was, seemed to fade amidst the overwhelming voices of societal expectation. She grabbed her phone, staring at Jake's number, an invitation leading her towards something different. Clenching it tightly, she felt the weight of her decision. Only moments ago, the idea of a life with him felt so exhilarating. But the stakes were staggering, a confrontation with her origins, with the foundations of her upbringing that had sculpted her existence until now. Stepping out of the house, she caught sight of the small barn her father had built years ago. Memories flooded back, learning to ride alongside her mother, tending to sick animals under her father's watchful eye. Each recollection felt like an anchor, pulling her deeper into the life she was meant to lead, the life she was expected to lead. As she entered the barn, the familiar scent of hay and leather took her back in time. This was her first sanctuary, where she learned that vulnerability required shattering boundaries. A fierce determination surged within her. She could choose to be more than a mere reflection of her parents' aspirations. Nevertheless, she pondered the heart-wrenching consequences of her choices. Would breaking free of tradition ultimately cause irreparable harm to those she loved? "Clara, is that you?" Her father's voice broke through her reverie, bringing back the reality she was battling against. "We need to talk about the wedding plans." A chill ran through her. The realization that her future was being constructed without her consent struck hard. In that moment, the notion solidified within her. She needed clarity. "Dad, can we talk firsthand about what I want?" she found herself saying, the words almost tasting foreign. Yet there was a liberating ring to them that filled her with conviction. Even as her heart raced at the potential fallout, something primal stirred inside her, a whisper of independence, encouragement to make her voice heard. As she mustered the bravery to confront her father, she felt the shaky confidence grow within her. She stood taller amidst the whirling uncertainty. What would her father say? Would he understand her request for a choice? The possibilities felt terrifying and invigorating all at once, waking something dormant within her spirit. She needed to take a stand, but at what cost? Stepping toward the living room where her father awaited, she took a deep breath, silence punctuated by a sense of impending revelation. She was ready to risk it all for a chance to chase her true self. The next words out of her mouth could alter the course of her life forever. Would they lead to acceptance or a resolute rejection? The moment had arrived, and it would test the depths of her character. Clara hesitated at the threshold, the doorframe marking the boundary between her past and a future she was yet to chart. Each heartbeat resonated with the weight of her decision, amplifying the cacophony of thoughts swirling in her mind. She held her breath, pressing her palms against her sides, clenching the fabric of her shirt like a lifeline. "There's something I need to say," she announced, her voice stronger than she felt. Her father turned, curiosity etched on his face, but she saw the flicker of expectation in his eyes, a familiar look that hinted he already had the script written for her life. "Let's get straight to it," he replied, the enthusiasm he had for wedding planning evident. "I found a beautiful venue. Just imagine it, the flowers, the guests." "Yes, Dad, but—" His name was a verbal barrier, meant to stop him in his tracks. "But I'm not ready to get married." A weight seemed to lift as she spoke those words. A momentary silence fell, laden with shock and disbelief. Her father's brow furrowed, oozing disappointment and confusion. "Clara," he began, his tone both gentle and authoritative, like a doctor counseling a patient who resisted necessary treatment. "This is what you've always wanted. We've prepared for this." "I thought so too, but I never had a choice, did I? This is not what I want," she pressed, feeling the adrenaline race through her veins, her pulse quickening with determination. Every word became a revelation of her suppressed desires, a chance to reclaim her narrative. "Your mother and I have worked tirelessly for you, Clara. You're throwing away everything we've built." His frustration ignited an expansive urge to stand taller, to be heard. She clenched her fists, drawing strength from the warmth of emotional rebellion. "No, I'm trying to save myself. This isn't just about you or what you want. It's about my life and my choices." Her voice, once soft and uncertain, now carried the weight of her dreams. Faced with familial expectations, fireworks of emotions exploded within her. A rush of clarity emerged from the chaos. She could not be the woman molded into a perfect image of compliance. It was time for revelation. "This isn't merely an act of defiance," she continued, a newfound articulate conviction flowing through her. "I want to be a veterinarian, truly. I want to travel, explore, and experience life beyond the constraints of this town. I never chose to stay here and marry. That's your dream, not mine." It felt like unveiling a mural that had been covered with monotonous paint. Her truth colored her words, splashing vibrancy against the wall of expectations. The silence that followed felt like eternity, suspended in time, carving the new contours of her reality. Her father's expression shifted from disbelief to a quieter contemplation, his eyes searching for understanding amid the storm she had conjured. Clara dared imagine the possibility of acceptance, but dread lingered like a spectre in the corner of her mind. Would he come to view her as a disappointment? "Clara." He hesitated, weighed down by the words he struggled to form, the silence encasing them both in a fragile space. Before he could finish, the door swung open with a chorus of laughter. Jake stepped in, carefree and genuine. The sight sent a shockwave through Clara's heart, reminding her of the choice she had to make beyond her father's realm and traditions. His presence was magnetic. It reignited the embers of courage within her. In his company, things felt possible, but now came the ultimate test. Could she unite her emerging desires with the very real disapproval from the man who shaped her childhood? "Clara, what's going on?" Jake asked, his gaze darting between her and her father, oblivious to the philosophical war unfolding in the room. "I'm fighting for what's mine, Jake," she breathed, the burgeoning storm coiling in her, a signal that the battle for her individual freedom had only just begun. What awaited her next? Would her father agree to see her for who she was becoming, or would he retreat into the safety of tradition? Clara realized she was ready to navigate the uncertainty, but now she faced a more significant dilemma. Was Jake the ally she needed, or an added complication she would have to fight against? Steeling herself, she gazed at the two men in her life, each representing different paths. The air crackled with tension, thick with the lingering questions of what could follow her revelation. Clara took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her ears. The stakes were higher than ever now. Her father, a man she had idolized through childhood, stood across from her, his eyes a mixture of hurt and disbelief. She felt a sudden need to break the silence, to fill the space with something more than tension. "Dad," she began, attempting to soften the words that had already slashed through any semblance of a peaceful atmosphere. "I know you mean well. You've dedicated so much of your life to me, and I appreciate it, but I don't want to live a life that feels like a script I never auditioned for." Her father blinked, processing her words through a lens of conflict. The silence stretched again, thick with unresolved emotions. Clara's gaze flicked towards Jake, who stood nearby, anxiously shifting his weight from one foot to the other, tension radiating off him. His uncertainty reminded her of her own fears. She needed clarity in the chaos. "We're talking about your future," her father finally responded, his voice low and steady, though the edge of apprehension danced around the lines of his mouth. "How can you be sure?" "I can be sure," Clara interrupted, a surge of confidence fueling her next words. "I've spent what feels like a lifetime being uncertain, doing things to meet expectations that were never mine. I've volunteered at the shelter, worked with animals, and I know that's where my passion lies. I don't want to hide from it anymore." With those words, she realized something profound about her growth. In confessing her dreams, she unearthed her autonomy, setting wheels in motion that couldn't be reversed. The realization hit her then. Her father's approval, while desirable, was not essential for her happiness. "I want to ask you something," she added, a gleam of determination in her eyes. "Would you consider supporting my decision to pursue a career in veterinary medicine? If I fail, it will be on my terms, not yours." Her father looked at her as if he were another person, someone who needed to consider his path of surrender. A complex mix of pride and regret washed over him. "You really mean it, don't you?" he said quietly, almost as if the admission poured from his heart against his will. "Yes, I do," she replied firmly, their eyes locking in an unspoken exchange where clarity found its voice amid the confusion. The room felt suddenly lighter, as if a thick fog had rolled away. Jake took a step closer, a silent supporter in this defining moment of Clara's journey. "It takes a lot of courage to stand up like that," he offered, a hint of admiration in his voice. Clara could feel warmth radiate through her as his words settled in. Her father seemed to take a moment to gather himself, weighing the implications of what Clara was demanding and what such acceptance would mean for them both. "This isn't what we envisioned, Clara," he finally stated, but less forcefully, as if testing the idea against the backdrop of their history. "I know," she replied, offering an open heart amidst her conviction. "But wouldn't it be better if I chase what truly makes me happy?" With this exchange, a shift occurred, but uncertainty still lingered. Would her father ultimately be able to embrace her desires? Or would they forever stand on opposite sides of this pivotal decision? In that brief lull, Clara felt the stirrings of a new possibility, her desire to move beyond the confines of tradition intertwining with her sense of self. But Jake's presence stirred something deeper within her too. Could he become a partner in her journey? Or would he become a reminder of the life she was leaving behind? As the weight of her father's response hung in the air, Clara's heartbeat raced at the thought of what her first step beyond this threshold would entail. A future of uncertainty awaited her, promising both exhilaration and fear. "Clara," Jake spoke softly, drawing her back to the moment, "if you take this leap, will you let me be there for you?" Her heart quickened, a blend of excitement and trepidation pouring into the question. She stared into Jake's earnest eyes, daring to dream further than her current reality. Could she allow him to be part of this transformative journey, or would she face it alone? Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain: she was at the brink of a defining evolution. The air thickened with unanswered questions, each heavy with the weight of choice. Clara could feel the push and pull of her decision cascading around her. She stood, ready to tear through the fabric of expectation that had long cloaked her life. Would she seize the moment or let it slip away? The world outside seemed vibrant, filled with possibility, yet inwardly she wrestled with her burgeoning autonomy and fear of the unknown. It was time to choose. Clara's decision took form in a peculiar blend of exhilaration and weighty apprehension. The words she had just declared hung in the air like a tether she was eager yet terrified to grasp. As her father's expression began to soften, she felt a surge of hope clashing with her insecurities. "Clara, I need time to think about this," her father finally replied, the flicker of acceptance entwined with residual hesitation. "Time is all I need, Dad," she countered, her voice steadier than she felt inside. As relief washed over her, Clara recognized that even though her father wasn't fully on board yet, they were no longer standing on opposing shores. They were both navigating uncharted waters, trying to find a semblance of common ground. Turning toward Jake, she saw his unwavering support glimmering in his eyes, the present and the future entwined in a shared gaze that felt tangible. Yet as she absorbed the comfort of his presence, a spectacular realization struck her. This was only the beginning, a single step along the winding path toward her true self. What lay beyond this initial confrontation was a world brimming with both potential and challenge. In the days that followed, Clara took her father's words to heart, allowing her thoughts on veterinary medicine to wash over her, solidifying her newfound resolve. Every morning, she would rise early and immerse herself in her volunteer work at the shelter, caring for abandoned animals and learning about their needs. There was a primal satisfaction in lending her hands to these creatures, as if each gentle interaction was a validation of her decision. As the weeks passed, Clara crafted a plan, one not only to pursue her education, but also to structure her experience. She generated a list of veterinary schools, researched their programs, and began reaching out to professionals in the field to discuss her aspirations. With every inquiry and every newfound list of resources, she felt herself shedding the cloak of doubt that had once enveloped her. Yet the specter of her father's eventual acceptance loomed large. Would he understand the depth of her passion, or would the distance created by their differing visions create an insurmountable rift? Each passing day brought Clara closer to answering that question, but first, she needed to confront another significant source of uncertainty, her relationship with Jake. As they spent time together discussing their dreams and fears, Clara sensed a connection that stirred more than just a budding romance. Would he be her anchor or a distraction from her evolving dreams? In an attempt to balance her commitment to her future with her growing feelings for him, Clara cultivated open conversations with Jake, addressing the complexity of pursuing her independence with him by her side. "Clara, do you think our paths align?" he asked one evening as they strolled through a nearby park, the sun dipping below the horizon in a cascade of oranges and purples. His expression was earnest, and she sensed his desire to understand her journey's intricacies. "I want to believe they do," she answered, her voice steady yet tinged with uncertainty. "But I need to prioritize this for myself. It would be unfair to both of us if I didn't fully commit to what I want." Jake nodded, contemplative but supportive. "I respect that. While you're figuring things out, just know I'm here with you." His words reassured her, feeding the flame of hope flickering within her heart. The conversations with Jake became a lifeline that grounded her in her decision. But Clara also noted that as she focused on her goals, the pressure to succeed ratcheted up. Doubt began creeping in, questioning whether she truly possessed what it took to thrive in such a challenging field. As deadlines for applications approached, Clara wrestled with nagging thoughts of inadequacy, which threatened to derail her ambitions. Still, she pressed on, balancing self-reflection with the vibrant drive that fueled her passion. It was during one late-night study session, surrounded by papers littered with animal care notes and school brochures, that she caught sight of a poster on her wall, a picture of a veterinarian with a heartwarming smile cradling a puppy beneath the slogan, "Your passion can save lives." That spark, the reason she wanted to step into the world of veterinary medicine, ignited again, pushing her through the doubts. Yet, as she forged ahead, she started feeling the tug of her father's expectations against her burgeoning identity. Would she redefine their relationship? Could she bridge the gap between who he wanted her to be and who she was becoming? A veterinary student determined to make a difference? The night of her application deadline loomed ominously ahead, shrouded in both excitement and anxiety. Would she hit submit, sealing her fate and courageously launching forward into the unknown? With her heart racing, Clara realized she had to make a choice, not just about submitting her application, but about the entire vision for her life. Would she embrace this shift wholeheartedly, or let the past suffocate her new identity? The moment stood suspended, her finger hovered over the button, adrenaline coursing through her veins, the weight of her decision heavy and electric. The world waited for her answer. The silence in her room wrapped around Clara as tightly as the braided leather of her bracelet, a small gift from her mother that felt almost like a talisman. Heart pounding, she drew in a deep breath and pressed the submit button, each millisecond stretching into a lifetime. The screen flashed, a whirlwind of verification scrolling past. Relief washed over her as the confirmation appeared. She had taken the leap, but the glittering anticipation that should have accompanied her triumph was tainted with unease. She had wanted liberation, yet now she felt the echoes of doubt tightening in her chest. What if she had simply jumped without knowing where she would land? As days turned into a blur of anxious moments and sleepless nights, Clara busied herself at the shelter. The steadfast routine offered solace amid the chaos of her mind. Yet, with each passing interaction with the animals, a persistent question loomed. Was she truly ready for this journey? Jake's presence became a comforting constant. As they delved deeper into late-night conversations about their aspirations and insecurities, she sensed his unyielding support. Yet, would it be enough to bolster her when the inevitable challenges arose? One evening, under the twinkling stars, Clara felt an unusual tension in their usual banter. "Do you think we're rushing things?" she posed, her voice dipping slightly as they sat on the porch steps. "What do you mean?" Jake studied her, sensing the weight of her thoughts. "I mean, everything feels so intense. My goals, my dad, us." She could feel her words spilling out. Each syllable reflected her vulnerability. "What if this dream consumes me? What if I push you away in the process?" "Clara, you're not alone in this," he reassured. Yet Clara couldn't shake the gnawing fear that she was forging ahead while he remained fixed in place. What if she outgrew him as she transformed? His insight ignited a flicker of clarity. If the stakes felt that high, it was because they were entering a new road, one that required different considerations. It was possible their paths could fork, yet still hold space for one another, but they needed to navigate this territory carefully. Energetically, her days transformed. Emboldened by the urgency of her decisions, Clara expanded her volunteer hours and sought new opportunities within the veterinary community. She even reached out to a local veterinarian, asking for an internship to gain hands-on experience. With every email sent, she felt the weight of her insecurities ease slightly. She was claiming her narrative inch by inch. After keeping her success under wraps for days, Clara finally broke the news to Jake during a serene morning walk. "I got the internship," she said, her heart swelling with pride. "Clara, that's amazing!" He beamed, yet the excitement in his eyes couldn't mask the flicker of concern that followed. "But will you have time for us?" The undertone of uncertainty dipped like a stone in her stomach. I think so. I just need to be fully committed, you know. This is important to me." As days stretched on, a relentless tension simmered each time they were together. Could she fight for herself while still nurturing her relationship? The weekends turned into tightrope walks where she invested all her energy into each hour at the shelter, feeling exhilarated yet depleted. The internship pushed her to her limits and ignited the passion she had always felt but struggled to articulate. She found herself dissecting the minutiae of animal care, every heartbeat, every change in their disposition, a thrilling rush fueled by purpose. But with every moment of success in the internship, confidence burgeoned while deeper fractures appeared in her relationship with Jake. The crucial reality weighed on her. Jake accompanied her on this journey, but unwillingly. Would he blossom alongside her aspirations, or suffer in silence while she found herself? It was time to confront this head-on. Driven by urgency, Clara approached their next conversation with a clear mind. "Jake, I care about us, but something has to change," she stated boldly, her heart racing with determination. She was ready to face the truth of their connection, to figure out if they could withstand the growing distance that success had created between them. As his brow furrowed, an amalgamation of confusion and concern pooled in his gaze, Clara felt a deep resolve settle within her. There was no longer room for ambiguity. She needed to understand where their paths intersected or diverged. "I won't let you fade away," she declared firmly. The moment to illuminate the realities of her ambition had finally arrived. What awaited them lay beyond the horizon, a confrontation that would test everything they had built. Would they strengthen their bond, or find themselves at a daunting crossroads of aspiration and love? Clara steeled herself, aware that clarity or confusion awaited in equal measure. Clara's breath hung heavily in the air as she stood before Jake, the evening fading into a shroud of uncertainty. The porch creaked under her weight, a testimony to the unsteady ground that had become their relationship. She sensed in his silence a willingness to engage, an invitation to peel back the layers of unspoken fears. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "About what?" Jake leaned forward, eyebrows knitted in earnest concern. "About balance. I'm diving headfirst into this internship, and I'm worried that I'm neglecting what we have. You're important to me, but can we keep doing this dance?" The vulnerability in her words felt like a revelation, revealing the tender underbelly of her ambition. Holding his gaze, she had to confront the truth that had dawned on her. This was not just about her career. It was about the foundation of their shared dreams and the possible fractures that lay within them. She noted the conflict in Jake's eyes, and a part of her yearned for him to voice his doubts. But there was urgency in cultivating their connection that now demanded transparency. "It feels like you're racing ahead while I'm stuck standing still," he finally admitted, discomfort coloring his words. "I don't want to hold you back, but I also don't want to become an afterthought." His honesty struck with a dual-edged blade. Clara recognized the potential for resentment festering in silence, a menace that could poison what they had. "We need to find a way to make this work for both of us," she replied, determination flooding her soul. As they navigated through the complexities of intertwined futures, Jake's response unexpectedly ignited a phoenix of resilience within her. "Let's create moments together amidst your chaos. I'll support you, but let's build a foundation instead of losing what connects us." Clara thought about their weekends spent exploring nature, the exhilarating spontaneity of life alongside dedicated efforts toward her aspirations. The prospect of carving out time together, even amidst the whirlwind of her new reality, kindled hope. "What if we set aside a specific day each week, just for us?" Jake proposed, his voice steadying, igniting a twinge of excitement. "I like that idea," Clara replied, a smile creeping across her lips as the weight on her chest lightened. Yet beneath that joy, her mind raced, contemplating the commitments ahead. Could she genuinely manage both ambitions and nurturing their bond? The internship consumed her days and nights. She immersed herself in the workload, each blurred line of exhaustion propelling her determination. But each little victory, performing a procedure, comforting anxious animals, was punctuated by a gnawing guilt when she thought of Jake alone at home. She began to fear that the time invested in her aspirations could morph into an insidious erosion of their connection. It conjured that dreaded feeling of isolation, one she had worked tirelessly to escape. Where was the line between ambition and abandonment? Each week would unveil a battleground. Meanwhile, tension quietly seeped back into her life, the struggles manifesting every time she returned home late or cancelled their planned outings. Jake grew quieter over dinners, an unspoken question clouding the air. Could love withstand the incessant pull of her ambitions? As the work week progressed, Clara faced a crossroads she hadn't anticipated. Would she sacrifice the interwoven threads of her aspirations and her relationship to achieve a degree of success she had dreamed of since childhood? The specter of sacrifice loomed large, urging her to choose. Clara's heart raced as she prepared for the end-of-week presentations at her internship. The weight of expectations bore down on her, magnifying her fear of failure. But amid the swirl, one question lingered. What would happen if she showcased her newfound capabilities not just for herself, but as a beacon of support for Jake too? As she stepped into the building that morning, the realization washed over her with startling clarity. This was not merely a professional challenge, it was a test of her values and priorities. She needed to prove that ambition didn't mean exclusion, that she could still honor their bond while pursuing her dreams. Driven by newfound confidence, Clara rehearsed her presentation in her mind, envisioning the triumph waiting on the other side. Yet beneath the surface, she knew a deeper inquiry awaited her. How would she confront Jake afterward, longing for understanding among the complexities of their intertwined journeys? The moment of revelation had arrived, and with it, a challenge larger than any presentation, the potential for a pivotal transformation in both her career and their relationship hung in the balance. Would she emerge victorious and united, or would this pursuit fracture their connection beyond repair? Only the truth that awaited could illuminate the path forward. Clara's pulse quickened as she entered the presentation room, the air thick with anticipation. Her colleagues whispered among themselves, preparing for the culmination of weeks filled with tireless work and unfaltering dedication. It wasn't just her career on display, it was also her relationship with Jake, a silent but powerful shred of motivation resting at the back of her mind. As she set her laptop on the table, Clara felt the weight of not just her aspirations, but also the partnership she cherished. She mentally replayed Jake's words, his worries about being left behind, and she realized this moment could shape everything. The slides flickered onto the screen, stark visuals illuminating her efforts. But within her, a tumult began to brew. The presentations progressed, and with each step she took toward the front of the room, the doubt that whispered of her potential inadequacy filled her head. What if she stumbled? What if her work didn't resonate as she hoped? Clenching her fists, Clara chastised herself. Excellence was within her grasp. Each collaboration, each late night, every ounce of dedication was about more than just her. It was for all those who believed in her, including Jake. When she finally moved to address the panel, her voice emerged steady, each word imbued with hard-earned confidence. She poured her passion into the presentation, detailing the complexities of her projects, her innovations, and the small wins that lit her motivation ablaze. This was Clara at her best, a reflection of her determination and an acknowledgement of all that she could be. Yet, even as she spoke animatedly, thoughts of Jake lingered like shadows, reminding her that this victory could easily feel hollow if she didn't acknowledge him after. Would they celebrate together? Or would he retreat further into silence, questioning the worth of their relationship amid her victories? As the presentation concluded with a round of applause, Clara felt a rush of exhilaration mixed with an impending sense of dread. She crouched behind the podium, overwhelmed by a desire to shuffle away her triumph and seek comfort in his presence. There was no time to bask, she had commitments to keep. Clara rushed home after a brief post-presentation mingling, the lights of the city blurring past as she drove, anxiously rehearsing her words. What would she say to Jake? Would her achievements seem distant or unachievable to him, an impenetrable wall instead of a bridge? The front door creaked open, and she found him in the living room, the faint glow of the television lighting the worried lines etched deep into his brow. He looked up, meeting her gaze with a muted expression that twisted her stomach into knots. "Hey," he said softly, the usual warmth absent from his tone. "Jake, Clara began, but the words caught in her throat. She needed to share her success with him, to let him in on the joy that had ignited within her. But how could she encapsulate an entire whirlwind of emotion into a simple statement? As she crossed the room toward him, her heart brimmed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "I did it. The presentation went well. I think I might even get noticed for my contributions." His hesitant smile hinted at pride, but was tainted by an undercurrent of resignation. "That's amazing, Clara. I'm proud of you." The words sounded rehearsed, almost detached. In her chest, her heart constricted. "I want to share this with you. You're part of this, Jake. I couldn't have done it without your support." The sincerity in her voice broke through, igniting a flicker of hope she feared was extinguished. He looked at her for a moment, searching her face, and then he dropped his gaze. "But will this success really change anything between us? Or will it just make you fly higher while I stay here?" The confrontation was sharp, and it struck a nerve, a potent reminder of the fragile thread holding their relationship together. This was the moment Clara realized ambition could just as easily prompt connection as it could isolation. "It doesn't have to be that way, but we need to talk about it," she breathed, her mind racing. "What if we create a plan, not just for my success, but for us too?" Clara sensed that the outcome of their conversation hinged not only on how she presented her new reality, but also on whether they could align their aspirations. But could that alignment foster a balance, or would it prove elusive? The room hung in heavy silence, and she took a deep breath, the undeniable tension coiling around them like a shroud. What had once felt possible now loomed as a strain too great to bear. As they faced each other, existential questions drifted between them like the night air. Would their love endure the growing chasm of ambition? And as she steeled herself for his response, Clara braced for the inevitable unraveling or the binding promise of a new chapter. Clara held her breath, the air in the room thick with unresolved tension. Each moment that passed felt like a countdown, yet the clock's hand moved impossibly slow. She searched Jake's face, noting the worry lines framing his eyes, and felt the weight of her own aspirations pressing down on her. This wasn't just about a presentation. It involved the very fabric of their relationship. "Jake, I want this to be a turning point for both of us," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I believe we can grow together through my success rather than apart, but it requires open communication." Jake shifted slightly, his impatience palpable. "That sounds easier said than done." The disappointment in his voice hung like a weight, threatening to anchor her back to a past where they had settled into unchallenged roles. Clara clenched her fists, mind racing through the reasons they had started their journey together. They had aspired to build a life side by side, yet here they stood, uncomfortably estranged by the very ambitions that once excited them. "Then let's discuss it. What are we both hoping to achieve?" Clara attempted to draw him out. "You have dreams too, Jake, but they've been put on hold for so long. What do you want?" He leaned back against the sofa, as if trying to put some distance between them. "I don't want to hold you back. The world is opening up for you, Clara, and I'm just here. I took a job that's safe and predictable. I didn't chase the things I love because I thought those dreams would be a distraction." Her breath caught in her throat. "But maybe they can coexist. You've always said you wanted to start your own landscaping business. Why not pursue that while I navigate my career?" I doubt it's that simple, he replied, frustration rolling off him in waves. Plus, what if I fail? Then what? You'll have your success, and I'll be the guy who couldn't cut it. Something in her heart cracked at his words. Too many times she'd watched him bury his ambitions under fear, and it stung. You're not defined by your fears, Jake. Believe in yourself. I do. His eyes met hers, a flicker of something, hope or resentment, dancing as their silence stretched. Within that heaviness, Clara experienced a revelation about her own insecurities, about how easily ambition can transform into a barricade that isolates rather than unites. Let's set a timeline, she offered, her resolve building. You take a step toward your goal, even if it's small, while I pursue my career. We can support one another through that. I'll help you create a business plan if you'll give me the space to explore opportunities. Jake regarded her with mixed emotions. What if I still feel like I'm in your shadow? That's on us, Clara responded earnestly. We have to grow our identities as individuals and as partners, instead of measuring success against each other. A beat of silence stretched between them, and Clara sensed that they might be caught in a pivotal moment. So you're going to be the one that's on top? He asked, skepticism creeping into his tone. No, she countered firmly, her heart now racing with urgency. I want us both to rise. This isn't about competition, it's a partnership. We rise or fall as one. I won't leave you behind, but you have to step forward too. As their conversation continued, Clara noticed a shift in Jake. He tentatively leaned forward, an expression of reluctant interest forming. A flicker of determination sparked behind his eyes, igniting something within her. Every word fueled her confidence, pushing her own ambitions further while urging him to pursue his. Yet a question lingered in the back of Clara's mind, a troubling uncertainty that would not easily be swept away. Could they forge a future strong enough to hold them both, or would one ambition suffocate the other? As the conversation deepened, another layer of their connection peeled away, revealing the raw and vulnerable truth of their fears and hopes. Finally, with a hesitant smile, Jake murmured, "Okay, maybe we can try." And a wave of relief washed over Clara, and her heart lightened, but the reality of their agreement loomed heavily. They were stepping toward unknown territory, and with each step, the dynamic of their relationship was shifting. As the dust settled from the initial exchange, Clara felt a surge of empowerment, but also the bated breath of uncertainty. Just then, Clara's phone buzzed with an email alert that sliced through the tension in the room. As she glanced down, her heart thudded loudly. It was from the company's senior management. The subject line read, "Opportunity for advancement." Her pulse surged again as she processed the implications. Would this lead her toward success, or push her further away from the relationship she cherished? In that moment, as they stood on the precipice of new beginnings, Clara realized the next chapter of her life was about to unfold. Would she be brave enough to balance her ambitions with the fragile partnership that remained untested? The choices ahead loomed large, demanding both clarity and courage. Clara Matthews stood at the threshold of transformation. The ink dried on her application. Her internship had become a launch pad, and the conversation with Jake had shifted the very ground beneath her feet. She'd unveiled aspirations, and now they threatened to spark a wildfire within the boundaries of her life. As she read the subject line on her email, an exhilarating surge of possibility washed over her, and she was ready to embrace any outcome. The opportunity for advancement dangled before her like a golden thread, glimmering with the promise of recognition for her contributions. Clara felt her heart race, not out of anxiety, but from the thrill of what awaited her should she seize it. The determination within her had crystallized. She was ready to conquer every aspect of her ambitions while nurturing her growing partnership with Jake. The following days encapsulated a whirlwind of visibility, commitment, and vibrant energy. With each task and presentation, Clara demonstrated her renewed confidence as she tackled challenges head-on. She earned recognition not just for her hard work, but for the compassion she brought to her role, highlighting her innate ability to connect with both colleagues and the animals she so dearly wanted to help. At the weekly staff meeting, her supervisor commended her for her contributions, igniting applause that resonated with Clara like a heartbeat echoing through the walls. "Clara, you've created a tangible impact," her supervisor said, beaming with pride. In that moment, Clara felt the solid weight of accomplishment settle comfortably on her shoulders, reinforcing her belief that she belonged. The girl who once cowered behind her family's expectations had become an assertive professional, an individual in her own right. Yet among her triumphs, she was keenly aware of the importance of balance. As she embraced her work, Clara remained attuned to Jake's needs and aspirations. She encouraged him toward the footsteps of his dreams, helping him draft a business plan and instilling in him the confidence he'd suppressed for years. Their partnership transformed from an uncertain bond to a dynamic interplay of support and mutual growth, where shared goals and ambitions weren't seen as competition, but as joint triumphs to celebrate. "Your ideas are strong, Jake," she asserted one night over dinner. "This could really take off if you commit to it." The light in Jake's eyes sparkled, a testament to the rekindled belief he was beginning to possess in his potential. As he explained his vision for his landscaping business, Clara could feel the gradual shift, a merging of their paths into one promising journey. Then, on a sun-kissed afternoon, a message from her supervisor arrived, with the kind of excitement that electrified the air. Clara had been offered a lead role in a community outreach initiative focused on animal care and welfare, a perfect fusion of her passion for animals and her desire to make a difference. She read the message twice, her heart swelling with pride. This was a step toward embodying the veterinarian she had always aspired to be. She shared the news with Jake, and they celebrated, their laughter filling the room as they envisioned their combined futures. Clara reveled in the fact that each milestone wasn't just her success alone, it was theirs. In their conversations around the dinner table, dreams flourished, and they began to sketch paths that intertwined, each supporting the other's growth. The harmony fueled both their desires to reach for more, yet Clara remained vigilant, facilitating moments for introspection and connection. With every shared success, they reinforced the importance of their partnership while walking separate roads of achievement. Time spent together became a priority, making their bond more resilient through every challenge life presented them. One evening, as they strolled through a nearby park, Clara took a pause, deeply inhaling the fresh air. "We've come so far together, haven't we?" she remarked, a smile illuminating her face. Jake nodded, laughter bubbling between them. "It's wild to think about where we started." Clara could see the newfound confidence flicker in his eyes, a reflection of her own growth mirrored back to her. "Do you think this is just the beginning?" Clara ventured, feeling a connection deepening like the roots of a well-tended tree. "Absolutely," Jake said, taking her hand. "We're only scratching the surface of our potential." A warmth washed over them, comforted by the undeniable truth that their dreams were no longer separate entities. They had become collective aspirations with room for both of their ambitions. When Clara finally received formal recognition for her role in the outreach initiative, standing at a podium surrounded by peers, she embraced the moment with poise and gratitude. Each word that rolled off her tongue represented milestones she had conquered, both in her personal battle for independence and in her blossoming career as a veterinarian. With a sustained smile, she reflected not only on her journey, but on the beautiful dance of love that empowered her along the way. She didn't just achieve a sought-after role, she proved to herself that she could balance pursuit of her aspirations without sacrificing her connection with Jake. Fulfilled, Clara recognized a newfound confidence surging within her. Liberated from the shackles of obligation that once weighed her down, she had crafted a life interwoven with purpose, personal satisfaction, and thriving partnership. As the applause swelled from the audience, she caught Jake's eye, resplendently beaming with pride, and Clara knew they would face the future together, empowered, encouraged, and destined for shared triumphs. This was her moment, but it was only the beginning of a broader journey, one that they would take together, hand in hand. It's time to take a leap. Don't let another moment slip away. Subscribe immediately to our channel for more exclusive emotional stories that inspire personal growth. If this story resonates with you, leave a like now to help fuel the algorithm. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need motivation in their lives. True fans of personal overcoming stories recognize the importance of supporting this channel, so don't wait even one more second to show your support. Comment your thoughts below and let's dive into the discussions about this inspirational ending together.